The date.php template is a generic catch-all for any sort of date-related archive. So if you're viewing all of the posts within a certain month, within a certain year, within a certain day, they're all going to be leveraging the date.php template. Now, I never really completely understood why they didn't have fallback ones for like year, month, and day, but they don't. There are conditional tags that we could use, but in general, date is only going to be distinguishable from the archive.php, and we can't further create templates that are part of the default template hierarchy. So let's take a look at just setting up date.php, which is going to be really simple, and I'll just kind of point out some conditional tags that you could use that we'll come back to later on in the next section in more depth. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're opening up our archive.php and we're doing a save as, and we're just going to name that date.php. Of course, update our date. And then let's go ahead and check this out on the page. All right, so I'm on my home page here. I'm coming down to my date archives. I'm clicking on one of them. Let's go back to one of the original ones. Okay, so clicking on here, we could see it says month December 2012. And I could change that. So if I do this and just go to 2012, notice that it's going to say year. If I go to, let's say, a specific date, no found, so that's going to give us a 404 error. Now this is one place where maybe we don't want a 404. Maybe we want to say no posts found for this date, and notice that it's falling back all the way to index.php. So we can't actually do that because there are not date archives down to the level of a specific day. Yep, yeah, there are. Okay. But they only happen if they work. So notice that if that date exists, it's going to pull up here. But if that date, if there are no posts on that date, let's find one without. Yeah, the 30th doesn't have any. Let's see, it is the 28th. Yeah, none there. So this gives you a little bit of an interesting scenario where if you don't have those posts, it's going to fall back to your index.php or later a 404. But if you do have them, then it will tell you, hey, on this date, here are all the posts. However, you can't get a template that says, day.php or that says month.php. So for this reason, we have to leverage some conditional tags. Now, we talked about conditional tags back in our PHP for WordPress section, and we'll come back to them in more depth under template tags. However, this is really helpful. Is a date will let you pass a specific date to find out if it is. Is it a specific month, or is it a month being displayed? Is it a day? So we can now give conditional statements, or we can add conditional statements into our code to say, this is a month archive. I want you to display differently. And that would be a really nice level of attention to detail. So let's say, for instance, that your site has a yearly archive, a month archive, a day archive, and you were able to style those differently to really give them a sense of proportion and what they're scaling and maybe formatting the content. There's a lot you could do with the state.php template, but there's not a lot you could do with children templates of it. You're probably going to be, that are part of the official template hierarchy. You could use conditional tags and include different get template parts in depending on what you need. So that's just a little bit of an overview on date.php. Again, you could customize it a bit further. We'll come back to date conditional tags and play around with that later, but that's a pretty good wrap on what we've got for now. So at this point, catch up with where we are now. We didn't really do anything except save this new file, change the name. And again, if you find yourself just creating these files for no reason, then you might not need them in your theme. You might be able to get by with just an archive.php and not use date.php. But figure that out in your own project, okay? So for this project, follow along, create it, just get the practice. In your own project that you're building at the same time, decide, how would I want to format data archives? What would they look like in the best possible way or most accessible, usable way? And then see what you could do to build those out. We haven't really talked about how to use conditional tags, so if you can't get them running, don't worry. We'll come back to that later. But at least get an idea in your mind and build that out. Now, you may decide, you know what? On my site, this doesn't make sense. I don't need a date.php. That's cool. I salute you. You're allowed to make that decision. So go through that process, decide, code out what we did here, and then apply it as needed to your own site.